Welcome to HSBC Global Viewpoint, the podcast series that brings together business leaders and industry experts to explore the latest global insights, trends, and opportunities. Make sure you're subscribed to stay up to date with new episodes. Thanks for listening, and now on to today's show.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. This time we are in conversation with Grupo México. We are delighted to have Irma Potes and Paulina Serrano from Grupo México, and we are also pleased to have Natalie Blith from HSBC. This time we decided to take a deep dive into Grupo México's sustainability actions over the last few months and what could be plans for the next few months. Thank you so much, Irma. Thank you so much, Paulina. Why don't we kick off introducing yourselves? What are your roles at Grupo México, and what have been the main actions you have been taking at the company over the last few months?
I'm Paulina Serrano. I'm the Sustainability Deputy Director. I have been 5 years in the company, and my area is in charge of integrating all the sustainability strategy and the climate change strategy within the company.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you so much, Jose Carlos, for having us. And thank you, HBC, for this incredible initiative on providing visibility on sustainable practices for companies, especially for sectors like mining. My name is Irma Potes, and I'm the Director of Community Development for Grupo México. And I oversee more than 30 communities. They are all over the sites that we operate, our mining and infrastructure divisions. And I've been 18 years in the company now. It's a lot. Next year, almost 19. So very pleased to be here.
Thank you, Irma. Natalie?
Natalie Blythe, Global Head of Sustainable Finance and Transition at HSBC. I've also been at HSBC 18 years, but a banker for 32 years. And the last sort of 5 have been really focused on sustainability, developing our strategy, and indeed delivering our strategy.
Thank you so much. Why don't we start talking about this focus that you have on community development, because that was a driver of the award you had last year. Why don't you tell us what has been happening from 12 months ago until today in that specific area, what progress you have been making, and what continuity has been on that front?
Yes, we were awarded last year, and we prioritize community development in mining. And that is because our industry, we find the metals where they are on Earth. So we don't decide where to put a plant, so the metals are driving us where we should start digging and having the metals. And therefore, we need to build communities around them. So we need to take people there so they can work on the mines, and therefore they have children and families, and we need to provide for all the services and start making the communities. So it is very important that even we start a new community around the mine, or we are being hosted by a community that is already there near the mine, we need to especially provide all the things that make that community thrive as we want to thrive in our business. No business can thrive if their communities or the people around them are not thriving as well. But that also entails and takes into account all the environmental aspects, because every environmental aspect will, if is not well taken or impacts in different times, will impact the social part of it. So what's new over the last 12 months, and what we have been working about? Well, I'll talk in 3 levels. One is our social programs. We have different social programs such as cultural and sports programs, and we started them so many years ago. But we, this year, the last 12 months, have been being very professional with these programs. So what we've been doing is to choose the best people in those communities to be awarded and to push them to have scholarships in the best universities or places in the world that they can pursue an aspirational for the rest of the people that are coming, behind. The other aspect that we have been improving, it's the everything about suppliers, small suppliers in the supply chain. We, by nature, we develop small suppliers in the communities that we operate. But right now, we have a very well put and very organized program so we can develop those small suppliers in the communities. And we are very proud of what they're doing because it's people from the communities that never maybe dream of providing such a big companies like Grupo and to get into all this training and having their companies, grow and their families, grow as well. So we are very proud of this small supplier program, which is taken care by Grupo Mexico. And the third thing that I will say that it's important for us is we are trying to measure and focus more accurately the social license to operate. And we develop our own internal index to measure that. And that takes into account the socio-economical context of each community, also any stakeholder or workforce engagement that we have, the perception of the company, and any grievance or complaint that we have. So all that mixed and together in an index, we have now a very professional measure, and that implies also the qualitative part of interacting with communities, but also the numeric part. So we know now where do we have to enhance to get a more accurate social license to operate. So those three things, I will say in a nutshell, that's what we have been working on.
No, thank you so much and congratulations. I think it's very it's great to hear that these actions are having a social impact. Probably, Natalie, it's a good transition to know a bit more of how HSBC is supporting clients in some specific things. For example, energy security, new economy innovations, supply chain resilience. What kind of actions the bank is taking for supporting clients on these three parts?
So it is. It's a pretty exciting time to be in my role. So we have just through the bank developed and had approved right at the board a pretty bold and ambitious new strategy, which covers sustainability, transition, and indeed, obviously, infrastructure. And the three levers that we've got now are, I think, really key. So the first one is we want to be a leading bank for those fast-growing ecosystems for the transition. And there are three of them in particular. You talked about energy security, so clean energy, the electrification of transport, and indeed data centers and AI. But that the energy component of that, what we see around our clients is they vary on a triangulation of three things: security, pricing, and the sort of the cleanliness of the energy. So they want clean energy. So that's pretty exciting. And the infrastructure, we are doubling down on our capabilities, building teams out with much more infrastructure, including here in Mexico, which is absolutely brilliant. We've been with a number of clients this week, and it's infrastructure, project finance, and so on. So that's pretty exciting. So that's driver one. Driver two is really around quite a lot of the hard to abate and make sure that we are that trusted, strategic sort of relationship partner to help the clients sort of transition from wherever they are. We meet them where they are and try and take them to the new world order of low carbon economy. And then the third driver is the innovation that you were talking about. So we are the bank of choice for the nascent climate tech. And these are a Venn diagram, overlapping circles. They reinforce each other. And Sightline has now declared us to be the lead bank from pre-seed right through to IPO of these nascent climate tech companies. And what we can see is that those are the technologies that our clients in driver one and our clients in driver two need. And so we can be the money, we can be the de-risker. It's very risky for these clients. They're startups. They have to get through that valley of death. Yeah. And we can be the kingmaker by helping scale them up into those, let's face it, quite a lot of clients that we have, millions of clients that we have, who will need these technologies going forward. And you talked about supply chain resilience, absolutely critical. You talked about what Grupo Mexico are doing for the small suppliers. Small suppliers can really be exposed here around the globe and here in Mexico as well. They can be exposed to policy shocks. They can be exposed to supply chain shocks where a big client, big corporate looks at their supply chain and think, oh, no, you don't qualify. You can't demonstrate now what your carbon footprint is and so on. So we help them be ready for that. And we provide tools, free carbon calculators, other partnerships that enable them to stay in and be critical parts of that supply chain. And that makes that whole supply chain much more resilient.
Mhm. Got it.
And it's fun.
How do you see, or how do you think it's viable to have a climate transition as a commercial opportunity for the company?
We see us as enablers of the transition. And we have 3 divisions. We have a mining division, a transportation division, and infrastructure division. And then we have a philanthropic foundation. And in the work we do, we are key players. We are top producers in Mexico and in Peru. And we are also producing the metal that is needed for the transition. And the electrification needs a lot of copper. And indeed, artificial intelligence will need a lot of copper. So there's a lot of demand of the product that we have. So we are enablers in that sense. For example, to give you just an idea, a regular combustion car has between 15 and 20 kilograms of copper, whereas an electric car has 4 times more. Or, for example, 1 megawatt produced with a wind turbine has 1.6 tons of copper, whereas if you produce it with a solar farm, you have 3 times more. So the demand of copper is going to be very important. And so we are really enablers. And we're also enablers in our transportation division. We do cargo transportation in trains. We have 11,000 lines of trains, train lines. And for example, a train can have the equivalent load of 300 trucks. So, and its emissions are 3 times lower than the one that would be on roads. So we see us enablers. And then we have the infrastructure division where we have now 2 wind farms and we have energy projects.
Got it. So it seems that there's opportunity within the divisions of the company. And now that you said that, let me ask you about what are the pillars of your sustainability plans, and how do you think they are going to continue to deliver value to the company, as you have already mentioned on these opportunities?
So the main pillar that we have is prevention. And Irma can tell you, is risk prevention through all the activities we do. But especially, we have been working the last years in a critical risk registry, looking for opportunities to minimize risk and prevent and mitigate any unwanted event from the environmental side or for the health side. That's something that it's at the top. We report it at the top of the company to the board. That's one pillar. The other pillar we have is best practices. We have been following best practices, and we are guided and committed also to some United Nations frameworks. So with the Paris Agreement, the Sustainable Development Goals, the principles of the Global Compact, they guide us. But then we are looking also at best practices within our sector. And we're following many of the best practices of the International Council of Minerals and Metals The next pillar that we have is third-party verification. Third-party verification, it's important for us to have best practices because as we see, there are best practices. And we have then been moving to have certify all our units on the Copper Mark. The Copper Mark is a responsible production certification. We have already certified all of our units in Sonora, in the north of Mexico, and we have done them in Peru, and we will be moving to other of our units.
Natalie, let me get back to you. Listening from Paulina, from Irma, you have already told us about these three channels, right? But more specifically, how can HSBC, given the significant milestones it has been achieving, how can HSBC support clients as Grupo México's on taking advantage of these commercial opportunities that we were just discussing?
I'm glad you sort of called it commercial opportunity because I think this year has been very pivotal for all of us in the sort of focus area of sustainability, where it's moved from being, we've got to do this, we've got to report, we've got to tick this box, we've got to talk about this, to, oh, this actually makes really good commercial sense. And it's now fundamentally part of the sort of the business. And really what we have to do is take our leadership position here as very serious in terms of responsibility and make sure that we're providing the clients, learning from clients and colleagues at sort of Grupo Mexico and others, and making sure that we can share that thought leadership content, make sure that our bankers feel confident to be having the conversations with clients.
Thank you. And Paulina, what are the next steps or the most recent steps you are taking as part of your transition plans?
So we have been focusing on Scope 2 emissions that, for those who don't know, are electricity. So we're moving to have renewable electricity. We have 2 wind farms. One of them just started operating last year and is delivering the energy to our underground mines. So far this year, we have reduced our emissions 180,000 tons this year, and we expect to have 250 tons by the end of the year. So that's our first step, and also been working on efficiency, energy efficiency. And we have some projects in Sonora in our solvent and extraction and electrowinning processes, where we are incorporating solar panels to heat the electrolyte of it within the system. So, and for example, in Buena Vista del Cobre, we're incorporating traces for heating traces that it's also helping for reducing our emissions. And another example are in our transportation division. We have been looking at opportunities for electrifying our yard locomotives, and some of the locomotives that are go throughout the country. Some of them we have done some retrofitting, so they be able to have natural gas and diesel at the same time.
And of course, that also has an impact on communities because we share with communities, we share with the mayors, we share with the different authorities, and also with the users in the communities. How can they help us to reduce our emissions, our footprint? So all this language that is very maybe sophisticated for regular people that are out there in the streets about climate change and everything, they might not know the exact word for it, but everybody's feeling it.
We're working also on trying to reduce our Scope 3 emissions. It's a long journey. We're at the beginning, but we have been engaging with clients and our providers, and we have also been looking at the different routes of the the trains to see what routes we can use them more to switch to train rather than road.
You can see that we're very passionate about this topic, but I will add also that our strategy in biodiversity and all the nature initiatives that we are pushing already in the communities, because for mining land, it's a thing. You know, we have great extensions of land, and we don't use it sometimes. We protect it, and we are just preserving that and counting on it to enhance that land and also to give a service for the environment.
I've always been very impressed with the way Grupo Mexico has been approaching the nature side of it as well, actually. Yeah, it's super.
Thank you.
So, from your point of view, which are these challenges in the climate transition theme that you are probably addressing in a closer way, or that you think it's important to keep in mind?
So first of all, we are an industry that has very important challenges because we have trucks that are 200 tons and that you want to decarbonize, and some of them are 400 tons. So the challenge is that the technology is not yet there. It's being underdeveloped. We have agreements with the producers, and we have meetings with them at least twice a year with each of them to find out how fast are they moving forward. So that's one of our biggest challenge. And then it's a little bit similar also with the locomotives. We have having these locomotives that have natural gas and diesel, but well, in the long run, we would like them to be net zero. So we're in that process looking at those opportunities.
Excellent.
And then in Mexico, we see the grid in Mexico hasn't been yet completely renewable, and it's taking longer than many of us expected.
Got it. Okay, and now following off, I have to ask on Paulina's comments. Sometimes it's easier to understand with some examples, no? So can you share with us some examples on how HSBC is supporting clients in addressing these climate transition challenges?
Yeah, sure.
Here.
But Paulina, I recognize those challenges. Thank you. And they are really difficult. And a lot of the stuff that we know we need is just not happening fast enough. But I do think together we can make a real difference. So yeah, happy to give examples around our three drivers. So you've heard Grupo Mexico is absolutely central to the transition. So when we talk about our driver one and those ecosystems, Grupo Mexico is right in there. So anything that we do to help Grupo Mexico qualifies. Thank you so much. And we want to play a major role in this sort of clean infrastructure in Mexico. And, some of the needs that you have are, really quite complex, but we're here to support that. On driver two, there's a really good example that we did actually earlier this year, which is a steel mill in Sweden, which used to run by fossil, and it's electrified through state-of-the-art electric arc mini mills. And the impact of this has been to reduce the emissions from that steel mill site by 90%, but the whole of Sweden's by 7%. Yeah, that is quite cool. And then on that, the climate tech, we really are becoming a flywheel. So Infinium, US company, eFuels, we have helped them do their first of a kind project in the US, but they couldn't have done it had we not several months before financed Electric Hydrogen, which is a company that enabled them to have the kit for Infinium to do what they're doing, which then the off-takers are our clients in drivers 1 and 2. So it's evidence that it's happening, but we still need more to happen and faster.
Got it. Maybe to start wrapping up the podcast and taking advantage of what you just mentioned, Natalie, and also I'm going to ask Irma, Paulina, probably first you, Natalie, what piece of advice would you give to companies that are pursuing this transition phase, given the broad view you have at the bank and the visibility that you have in many regions, which would be maybe in a couple of sentences
Okay.
that is
All right.
advice?
I think the important thing is for everybody to understand they're not alone.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can't solve it on your own. And therefore, lean in and develop relationships and sort of partnerships. And then the second advice is be really bold and courageous here. Yeah. Really courageous and ambitious. No little incremental change here. Think really big, think out of the box and go for it.
Amazing. Yeah. Right. Irma?
I love that you said think really big and be bold and courageous. Our founder always said it's important to think big, but to act big as well. And we love that statement in our company. So talking about community development, which is the area that I'm passionate about, it is the regional development. And also, I think mining has also a challenge on diversity. That's something that we can learn a lot from the financial system, from you guys, because we are trying to push more and to attract more talent, diverse talent, but especially women into mining. And that's something that Paulina and I are very committed about, of course. And we have something to learn from other companies as well.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Paulina, any final remark?
As for myself, I will say that make the transition part of the culture of the company and be sure that the board is engaged on it.
Absolutely.
That would be my piece of advice.
Absolutely. No, I mean, thank you so much. I think that's a great way to close this conversation. Again, we were delighted to have you here, Irma, Paulina, Natalie. It was an amazing conversation to learn from what you have been doing. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in this conversation with Grupo México. And looking forward to resume the conversation soon. Thanks.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us at HSBC Global Viewpoint. We hope you enjoyed the discussion. Make sure you're subscribed to stay up to date with new episodes.